Hey, Summerside Church family, and welcome to our Family Worship Workshop, Session 3. We've been looking at formal family worship, what it is, and it's a time set aside every day to lead your family in worshiping God through reading the Bible, praying, and singing. Today we're going to look at why and when you should do family worship every day. First, I want to highlight a biblical character for you that practiced family worship, and this is Abraham. Abraham's main calling from God, you'll be surprised to know, possibly, was to teach and lead his household in the worship of God. Listen to this from Genesis 18. Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him, so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. When we think of Abraham, we think of a guy who started it all. Abraham's the starting point for the Abrahamic faiths, three big world religions. And Abraham isn't the leader of a nation. At the time, he wasn't even the mayor of a city. He was simply the head of his household. And God's main calling for him was to lead his family in worship and to teach them the ways of God. And practically no one else was doing this at the time. So at the time it was called, Abraham was old. He didn't have any kids. So it's also a reminder that family worship isn't just for families with kids, but it's for everybody. So we know that Abraham regularly, likely daily, practiced family worship. When Abraham intended to sacrifice his son, it's no wonder why Isaac is familiar with the worship practices when he notices that the sacrifice is missing. That's because Abraham was continuously and regularly practicing family worship with his family. Abraham didn't have a tabernacle, he didn't have a temple, a synagogue, or a church. And that's very similar to where we find ourselves as well. It's just us and our households. And this is what the 16th century reformer Martin Luther had to say about Abraham. Let me read it for you. Abraham, who had in his tent a house of God and a church, just as today any godly and pious head of a household instructs his children in godliness. Therefore, such a house is actually a school and a church. And the head of the household is a bishop and a priest in his house. Many of our houses have recently become little schools and little churches out of necessity. And in a way, this should always be true, that we teach our children about God and lead our family in worship. What we are passionate about as a staff at Summerside and as a Summerside team, as the elders, we're passionate about seeing you take hold of that responsibility to teach and lead your family, because the mission of God is not for the staff and the elders at Summerside, but it's for the people. And this goes towards our mission statement to develop everyday disciples that make disciples every day. So let's get into why you should aim to practice family worship every day. One reason you should do family worship every day is that it's a spiritual catch-all for your family. Daily family worship ensures that your family is worshiping God every day, and that family worship doesn't get neglected. We all have the intention to teach and disciple our kids and lead our families spiritually, but what markers do we have to know if that's happening? Daily family worship ensures that this is actually going to happen over the long term. And you never have to wonder, if you're doing enough. Another reason why it's helpful to aim for daily family worship is the goal to make it a habit. This is a family rhythm you want to adopt. You want it to become part of your family culture and a household habit. And doing it every day ensures that happens. And it's not just a fad that you should do for a while. It's something that you want to do for the long term. I remember one night when we were putting our kids to bed, my oldest son, he said, we didn't read the Bible story. We didn't read the Bible book that we read. And we'd completely forgotten about reading their Bible stories. And this is a reminder that we don't do this perfectly and are still figuring it out, but also a reminder that shows our progress, because it had become a habit enough that it was missed when we didn't do it. So the more often you do something, the more habitual it becomes, and that's why we aim for it every day. A good reason to do family worship every day is simple. As Donald Whitney, the author of this book, where we're getting a lot of the material from, puts it, God deserves to be worshipped daily in your homes. It's really that simple. He is great enough and awesome enough for your daily worship, not just once a week on Sunday. Now, worshiping isn't just reading the Bible, praying and singing. There are other ways that we worship God, of course. These are, though, explicitly taught and commanded in the Bible to worship God. And every other act of worship flow from these three. There are just three options among many. So I encourage you to take a look back at session 2 if you missed that, as I talk about why that is. Finally, and specifically for us at Summerside, daily family worship fulfills our mission as a church to develop everyday disciples that make disciples every day. What is so important for you to grasp about this mission statement is that it's not about the auditorium on Sunday morning or even the Sunday morning service online. At its core, it's about the people. The foundation of this mission statement is everyday disciples leading their families in worship every day. And that's why this series is so important to our mission. We can talk about outreach and reaching new people, and that's going to happen. It's already happening with our online ministry, but we will not move an inch forward with our mission statement if we doesn't start in the family and in the home. So we've looked at why we should worship God with our family every day. Now let's look at when we are going to make this happen every day. 3 things to think about when planning when to do family worship. Let's call these the ABCs of family worship. Start with A, adjustable. Whatever time of day you choose for family worship should be adjustable. You want the flexibility for when something comes up or you're not able to make it work, and you can adjust to make it happen. And it can easily be worked in and worked around, and it may end up not being skipped rather than what if it's a fixed time. So think of planning it during a time frame, not a set time. So for example, before bed or after dinner rather than 5 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. So make it adjustable. B, brief. Make it short and sweet. You want this to be a positive experience for your family, especially if you have young kids or teenagers. So don't drag it on too long. 30 minutes or more is too long. Plan for 10 to 20 minutes. Like we talked about in session 2, just read, pray, and sing. C, consistent. For the greatest possible impact on your family, make family worship a regular occurrence. Even though we want to be adjustable, for the sake of rhythm and habit, be as consistent as possible. The goal is to do this every day. But if you need to get started by doing this every Wednesday, or every Saturday, or Tuesdays and Thursdays, go for it. Be consistent. The key is whenever you do family worship, be consistent. So look at some possible times for family worship. Any time is possible, but here would be some popular times for families with kids. Family worship done in the morning, before or after breakfast. Everyone's morning routine is different, but I know that family worship can work during this time. Maybe it involves getting up a few minutes earlier or changing your morning routine. The benefits of the morning are starting your day off right and having your family dwell on God's word throughout the day. So the morning is an option. Family worship can also be done in the evening, so before or after supper or before bedtime. Someone always has something going on in the evenings, but at some point y'all have to eat and everyone goes to bed. So evening family worship can work well to close off the day and follow up the situations that come up, especially if you don't have a lot of time to debrief from the day. This is good family time. So morning and evening are great times for family worship, and they could work great for you. I like how it reflects Deuteronomy 6:7 that talks about teaching and talking to your kids about God when you get up and when you lie down and when you sit at home. And I think that's why these times are natural for family worship. Whatever you do, and for whenever you plan family worship, remember the ABCs: adjustable, brief, and consistent. For our family, the evening before bed works best for us, and it closes the day, and sometimes it helps to put our youngest to bed first so that we can actually spend time with the oldest kids, so there's less distraction. And we already read books to them, and it made sense for us to read a Bible story, to pray with them, and to sing a song right before bed. And this actually brings up a lot of conversations and allows us to kind of end off the day really well. So that's what works for us. And this is what I want to come across. You are winning if you are taking intentional steps in this area. So good job for you if you're moving forward in this. We want this to be helpful for you, and we don't want you to feel bad about not doing something that you should be doing or doing something poorly that you want to do. It's all about grace and taking those intentional steps forward for your family. So here's my challenge for you this week. Test out a couple times during the week, during the day, that work for your family. Pick 2 or 3 times of the day that your family worship could work and test them out. Grab a Bible and open it up and start to read it with your family. Gather people around and say, hey, we're going to pray. Sing a song together at a certain point of the day. Test out to see what time's going to work best for you. And I'd love to hear about how that goes. So please take an opportunity and join our family worship cohort. There's a link in the description, and we can set up a time to talk more about family worship, answer questions, and just kind of walk this journey together. Thank you so much for joining me with the Family Worship Workshop today. I hope you are learning lots. I'm having a lot of fun doing this, so thanks for watching. See you next session.